As we mentioned before the service began, today's sermon will be a little bit different from what we normally do. And so if this strikes you as different, if it doesn't quite land for you, I'll be back to my normal level of weirdness as soon as Wednesday. So today we're looking at the perspective of the criminal who was crucified next to Jesus, not the one who repented, but the one who didn't. And the purpose of it is not to find out more about him, as I mentioned earlier, but to reveal the stunning mercy of Jesus that silences even his enemies. And so with that, our sermon verse for today is from Luke chapter 23, verse 39. One of the criminals who were hanged railed at him, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." The criminal hanging next to Jesus looked down at his own feet, also pierced against the wood of the cross. And he looked over at Jesus, and he saw nothing but bitterness. Life from its beginning all the way to its end only led to brutal outcomes. He had nothing, and now he would die with nothing. And that seemed to be the way it would go, even from the very start. His parents didn't care much for him, and every person who pretended to be good in his life either betrayed him or let him down. But you know what? That's okay, because you get to a point in life where you realize that if the world is just going to treat you like you're already condemned or ignore you no matter what you say, then all of a sudden you can do whatever you like. Because after all, why does it matter? The results will still be the same in the end. And so that's what he did. He lived his life as a criminal. If he was already treated as one, he might as well be one. And now all of his crimes have finally led to this moment, and he could have called it, he could have predicted it, and yet here he was, not surprised. And he looks over at the man who is crucified next to him, and he sees that this is the ultimate proof of what he has always believed, because this man tried to do good. This man did his best. He helped others, so he had heard. And yet now, look at him. Crucified just like he was, just like the man on the other side of him, and just like so many other people before. Oh yeah, he had heard about the miracles and all the stories and all the wonderful things that this man Jesus had done. And not only Jesus, but also his cousin John, who himself was a real fervent believer. In fact, in his days as a thief, he had come across one of John's followers. Funny story, that one. You see, he came up to a guy and said, "Give me your cloak." And the guy not only gave him his cloak, but his other cloak as well. In fact, he kept giving him stuff even faster than he could rob it from him. A real frustrating experience. Here he was just trying to commit a crime, and the guy just wouldn't let him get away with it. And so then, John also suffered and was killed without justice. And now so is Jesus. But if he had the kind of followers that Jesus did, if he had the people that were hanging on his every word, if he had men behind him, he would have done what Jesus, for whatever reason, refused to do. It was obvious to him that Jesus had mishandled all the authority given to him, because this man would have taken those followers and turned them into an army and finally paid back the people, or the Rome itself, for all the blood they had taken from Israel. He would have given them blood for blood, and he would have been a hero in Jerusalem. And people would have praised him. And right now, instead of hanging on a cross, he would have been sitting on a pile of gold, eating fresh grapes and drinking all the wine that he wanted. But no, instead, he is here. And the crowds are just insulting this guy. It's like his crimes are unknown. They're all worried about Jesus. The one thing he always wanted in his life was a little bit of the spotlight, a little bit of attention, because that gave him some control. And so he decided to join in on the mockery. If you're the Christ, save yourself and us. Could really go for some lamb and wine right now. If you're the Messiah, you should be concerned that I didn't get my Passover. I was busy. And then he hears a voice. Not the voice of the crucified king next to him, but next to him, the next spot over, he hears somebody speaking. And he says, "Are you not afraid of God?" And the crucified criminal thought, no, because God had treated him like the rest of the world, that he was forgotten, condemned. And the man further said, "We're getting what we deserve for our crimes, but this man has done nothing wrong." And oh, there it was. Justice, justice, justice. This man was convinced that justice did not exist at all. Certainly, if it was real, it was out there for other people and not for him. And so now, in his dying moments, he had to listen to somebody else talk about justice, some kind of fantasy that he was living in. And he had to sit there. It was bad enough he had to sit there during his trial and listen to all the people in their whitewashed robes making their accusations against him, listing everything wrong he had done and some of the things that he hadn't done. All of them preaching about justice, about how society would be better off without people like him. And yet these people are the ones who live a life whose morals wouldn't even meet Jewish standards, let alone Roman standards. He had to sit there and listen to hypocrites list everything wrong he had done as if they had never committed a crime, oppressed the poor, or robbed anybody themselves. And so now he has to listen to this in the end. And then the man speaks again, the one on the other side of Jesus from him. And he says, "Remember me when you enter into your kingdom." Remember me when you enter into your kingdom. A kingdom that this guy would have would be a kingdom for sinners, a kingdom for criminals, a kingdom for tax collectors, a kingdom for prostitutes, a kingdom for drunks, a kingdom for liars, a kingdom for thieves. If that's the kind of kingdom this guy has, then maybe there is room in the kingdom for a guy like him. And then he notices that Jesus takes a breath. He's finally about to speak. Tell them, Jesus. Yell at the crowds. Give them what they want. Lay aside the nice guy act and give them justice. Show them what justice really is. Blood for blood. Give them what they deserve. They're calling for you to come down the cross, so call your armies or call your angels, whatever you have, and have them come down. And then get off the cross and take the crown and become the hero. He looks over, and Jesus lifts his head and turns it over to the other criminal on the other side. Come on, Jesus. Save us. Cast aside whatever cause you think you are dying for and just let them have it. Come on. Jesus speaks. Today, you'll be with me in paradise. And the man, the dying man, on the left of Jesus falls silent. This was something that his estimation of the world could not calculate, something that he could not account for. This man here came and suffered, not to come down the cross in some dramatic fashion, not to call out armies or angels or whatever he had, not to return to the world the tit-for-tat style of justice that he had seen his whole life. He came to do something different. He came and suffered in quietness and in silence and in patience even. He came and allowed himself to be hung next to two criminals to reveal something. What was the word? The pain was growing intense and the man's mind was blurring. What was the word for this? And he looks over at Jesus and he realizes what that word was. It was a word that he had longed for his whole life, a word that he wanted to know, a word he wanted to experience. This man, Jesus, this crucified king, came and suffered and died there so that he might reveal mercy. Amen.